What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Museum Reviews channel. Today, we will be continuing our series on the fine arts museums of San Francisco by taking a look at the top 40 19th century paintings from the collection of the De Young Museum. As always, if you enjoy this episode, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get on to the video. Honorable mention, Hetch Hetchy Side Canyon 2 was painted by William Keith in 1908. This small canvas captures a side canyon of Hetch Hetchy Valley, located within Yosemite National Park. The painting showcases the natural beauty of Hetch Hetchy before it was altered, and is a reminder of the ongoing debate surrounding the newly built dam and potential for restoring the valley to its original form. Number 40, Elizabeth Platt Jenks, was painted by Thomas Wilmer Dewing in 1895. Dewing painted this portrait of Elizabeth Platt Jenks at the Artists' Colony in Cornish, New Hampshire, which he helped establish. When he began this portrait, he had just returned from visiting Europe, where he toured galleries and shared a London studio with fellow artist James Whistler. Number 39, A Glimpse of the Lake, was painted by George Inness in 1888. The scene here was painted during the years that Inness spent living in Montclair, New Jersey. During this period, he painted many landscapes from his imagination, such as this one depicting a tiny central figure surrounded by lush green trees and grasses. Number 38, Ebba Boehm, was painted by Henry Brown Fuller in 1905. Fuller painted this portrait of Swedish model Ebba Boehm while she lived with the Fuller family in Cornish, New Hampshire. Boehm contemplates a vase of irises, which allude to Asian aesthetics that influenced many American painters at the time. Number 37, The Holiday, was painted by Maurice Brazil Prendergast between 1908 and 1909. Inspired by the Impressionist and Post-Impressionist styles he encountered during his studies in Paris, Prendergast painted this lively scene in a park-like setting along the New England coast using short and flat brushstrokes of jewel-toned colors. Number 36, A Different Sugaring Off, was painted by Eastman Johnson in 1865. When Johnson visited his hometown of Fryeburg in Maine, he often painted the activities associated with the maple sugar harvest. The symbolism of New England's surging reflected Johnson's abolitionist views, as the people who produced maple sugar were characterized as happy and free. Number 35, The Bright Side, was painted by Winslow Homer in 1865. This scene of teamsters, black men who served as members of the Union Army, is one of Winslow Homer's most enigmatic Civil War subjects. The title, Bright Side, is believed to allude to the men's future hope for the abolition of slavery. Number 34, Ice Flow, was painted by Robert Henry in 1902. Henry, a leader among American realist painters in the late 18th century, painted this scene depicting sheets of ice breaking apart on a gray, frigid body of water. As was typical for realist painters, Henry kept with his philosophy that art should reflect real life and the world as it is. Number 33, Study for The Last of the Buffalo, was painted by Albert Bierstadt in 1888. This painting is a study for Bierstadt's The Last Buffalo, which implied that Native Americans, rather than Euro-American settlers, were responsible for the bison's near extinction. The final painting suggests that the Manifest Destiny movement would lead to the extinction of Indian cultures. Number 32, In the Elevated, was painted by Teresa F. Bernstein in 1916. This work depicts a passenger car on the 9th Avenue Elevated Railway, which Bernstein frequently took to visit her parents' apartment. The painting captures the experience of modern city dwellers in close physical proximity, but psychologically isolated from one another. Number 31, The Pension Claim Agent, was painted by Eastman Johnson in 1867. After the Civil War, the Union Army dismissed 800,000 soldiers, leading to widespread unemployment. The scene here depicts one of these veterans, who makes his case to a claims agent as he seeks financial support from the government. Number 30, Roman Fish Market, Arch of Octavius, was painted by Albert Bierstadt in 1858. Ancient Rome's portico of Octavia, built by Emperor Augustus in 23 BC, gradually fell into ruin and became a fish market in the 12th century. Here, Bierstadt's depiction of the site documents the decline and fall of ancient Rome's monuments, and the now important destination for wealthy tourists. Number 29, Portraits, The Brown Family, was painted by Eastman Johnson in 1869. James Brown, a partner in the Brown Brothers and Company banking firm, is depicted here with his wife Eliza and their grandson William in their New York City mansion. The family embodies traditional Victorian gender roles as James reads the newspaper that connects him to the outside world, while Eliza takes part in the domestic activity of knitting. Number 28, A Corner of My Studio, was painted by William Merritt Chase in 1895. As recorded by many art critics, Chase's New York studio greatly resembled a museum. As seen in this painting, Chase decorated his studio with antiques such as Chinese bronze, an Italian Renaissance chest, and a Spanish religious wall hanging. Number 27, Harlem River at High Bridge, was painted by Ernest Lawson in 1915. The painting depicts the High Bridge, which was New York City's oldest, that opened in 1848. Modeled after ancient Roman aqueducts, the bridge became a destination for New Yorkers who enjoyed strolling along its pedestrian walkway. Number 26, May Day, Central Park, was painted by William James Glackens in 1904. This scene depicts Manhattan's Central Park on May Day. In the late 19th century, after a series of protests by workers, this ancient European celebration of spring was reimagined as International Workers' Day, promoting the rights of laborers across the globe. Number 25, A Bohemian, was painted by Dennis Miller Bunker in 1885. By the 1830s, the term bohemian was widely used to describe young artistic and literary figures who rejected middle-class traditions and comforts. Bunker's subject, a solitary artist playing a Spanish-style guitar in a humble studio, epitomized conceptions of this bohemian lifestyle. Number 24, Mother and Child, was painted by John Henry Twachtman in 1893. A leading American Impressionist painter, Twachtman here depicts his wife, Martha, holding their 7-month-old baby Quentin to a mirror. The painting also features another artwork hanging behind Martha on the right side of the canvas, locating the scene in the artist's home. Number 23, Study for Guard of the Harem, was painted by Frank Duveneck in 1879. This painting depicts the guard of a harem, a secluded, women-only space in some Muslim cultures, which became a popular artistic subject. Its unfinished quality contrasts the more polished style of realism promoted in many art schools. Number 22, Twilight, was painted by Frederick Edwin Church in 1858. As seen in this large-scale canvas, the setting sun was one of Church's favorite subjects as it gave him the opportunity to depict the glowing effects of clouds. Church, a student of Thomas Cole, was taught to consider landscapes as a manifestation of God's creation. Number 21. Moonlight was painted by George Inness in 1893. Inness painted this moody, enigmatic nocturne 1 year before his death. The composition is suffused with shadows, which are punctuated by flickering golden lights that emanate from the pictured homes, as well as from the ambient moonlight brightening the scene. Number 20. Sunlight and Shadow was painted by Albert Bierstadt in 1862. While studying in Germany, Bierstadt painted this composition depicting a view of the Gothic Revival chapel of the Lauenburg Royal Castle. The oak tree, seen to the left of the canvas, symbolizing enduring faith in the face of adversity and Christ's cross, crucifixion, and resurrection, was adopted as the national tree of Germany. Number 19. The Last Moments of John Brown was painted by Thomas Hovenden in 1884. In 1859, abolitionist John Brown was arrested and sentenced to death for attempting a rebellion among enslaved black people in the South. In this scene, Hovenden portrays Brown in a martyr-like manner, who was supported by numerous black individuals fighting for their own freedom. Number 18. Spring Landscape, Spring in Marin County, was painted by William Keith in 1893. The setting for this bright and bucolic scene is Marin County, where Keith visited frequently. Keith's view of nature was enhanced by his friendship with the legendary naturalist John Muir, who he drew inspiration from. Number 17. Professor William Woolsey Johnson was painted by Thomas Akins in 1896. Professor Johnson, a professor of mathematics at the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, is depicted in this half-length portrait. Akins chose to focus on Johnson's head as it emphasized who he was and the thoughts and feelings which he held. Number 16. Frank J. St. John was painted by Thomas Akins in 1900. The portrait depicts Philadelphia coal merchant Frank J. St. John, wearing his overcoat while clutching his hat. Akins portrays St. John with the tools of his trade, two great bars upon which coal burns to power steamship boilers. Number 15. The Courtship was painted by Thomas Akins in 1878. Though best known for modern subjects, Thomas Akins here renders a romanticized image of colonial life, with a young woman spinning thread while her suitor watches. Most likely, Akins, a Philadelphia native, was inspired by the recreation of a colonial kitchen at Philadelphia's Centennial International Exhibition of 1876. Number 14. Girl and Calf, Led Through Meadows, was painted by George Fuller in 1883. In this painting, Fuller depicts a barefoot girl wearing fanciful jewelry as she gently leads a calf across a barren plain. Fuller, who farmed for most of his life, often painted rural girls who have been interpreted as nostalgic yearnings for a simpler way of life that was being altered by modern technology. Number 13. Outdoor Stage, France, was painted by Everett Shin in 1905. When Shin traveled to Europe in 1900, he frequently painted music halls in London and outdoor café concerts in Paris. As highlighted in this scene, Shin sought to depict the dynamic exchanges between spectators and performers, and between audience members themselves. Number 12. The Sonata was painted by Irving Ramsey Wiles in 1889. Although the title of this painting does not identify the women, it is believed that Wiles depicted his wife, May, as the pianist. Likewise, the specific composition the women are playing is unidentifiable, leaving the viewer to simply reflect on the act of making music in general. Number 11. Prometheus Bound was painted by Thomas Cole in 1847. As the classical tragedy goes, Prometheus, a titan part of a race of immortal giants, stole fire from the god Jupiter to help the humans. Enraged, Jupiter chained Prometheus to a rock and condemned him to have his liver regrow and devoured repeatedly by vultures. Some researchers believe the subject was meant by Cole to create a moral allegory of the evils of slavery. Number 10. Portrait of Miss D was painted by William Merritt Chase in 1900. The subject of this portrait is Alice Dudeny, the oldest child of Chase. Often, Chase used family and friends as models for his paintings, leading them to be recognized in public. As she grew older, Alice replaced her mother as Chase's favorite model and was frequently the subject of his paintings. Number 9. Lady in Black with Spanish Scarf, Owen Black with Scarf, was painted by Robert Henry in 1910. The subject of this dramatic portrait, Henry's wife Marjorie Organ, appears as an irrepressible force. This portrait challenged the conventions of society portraiture as Henry positioned his wife in front of a dark background and presented her as independent and confident, and the very model of the era's new woman. Number 8. Rainy Seasons in the Tropics was painted by Frederick Edwin Church in 1866. In this large-scale canvas, Frederick Church depicts the sunshine beaming across a vapory veil, forming a magnificent rainbow across a mountain-bounded valley and gorge. To the right, rich vegetation of the foreground and a green, rugged mule path dominates the canvas. Number 7. Trout Stream in the Tyrol was painted by John Singer Sargent in 1914. This alpine landscape by Sargent features an angler prowling the bank of a wild stream, intently watching the water for his next catch. Though set in the Austrian Tyrol, the subject of this painting is a depiction of leisurely athleticism at a time when sporting activists appealed to many Americans as a break from the workweek. Number 6. Mrs. Robert S. Cassatt, the artist's mother, was painted by Mary Cassatt in 1889. In the many and varied portraits that Cassatt produced of her mother, she honored the strength and dignity of a woman who profoundly influenced and supported her artistic career. Here, Mrs. Cassatt appears in a three-quarter profile seated on a chair and cradling her face in one hand as she gazes pensively ahead. Number 5. Owen Persian Costume was painted by Robert Henry in 1913. In this large-scale portrait, Henry's wife Marjorie Organ, whom he affectionately called O, wears a costume that was common among modern dancers. At the time, contemporary performers often appropriated Eastern cultures to promote Orientalist fantasies for Western audiences by wearing costumes such as the one seen here. Number 4. Tulip Culture was painted by George Hitchcock in 1889. In 1883, Hitchcock settled in Holland near the town of Edmond on Zee, which he helped transform into a significant artist colony. In this piece, Hitchcock depicts a Dutch peasant woman standing among white, yellow, pink, and purple tulips organized in horizontal rows across a flat and natural Dutch landscape. Number 3. Easter Morning, Portrait at a New York Window, was painted by Childe Hassam in 1921. In this painting, which was part of a series of window paintings, Childe Hassam depicts a woman in an elegantly furnished domestic interior. Bathed in glowing light, the woman pulls back the curtain to gaze out at the Manhattan cityscape, seemingly detached from the outside world. Number 2. Caroline de Bassano, Marquise d'Espueils, was painted by John Singer Sargent in 1884. At the height of his career, Sargent painted this portrait which epitomizes the era's glamour and elegance. This life-size portrait of Caroline de Bassano, Marquise d'Espueils, captures his Parisian subject's icy poise. The use of theatrical light effects by Sargent accentuates the textures on her gown and wrap. Number 1. The Blue Veil was painted by Edmund Charles Tarbell in 1898. Tarbell, who was a founding member of the leading group of American Impressionists, here depicts a blue veil swirling around the head of the female sitter. The dynamic and windblown form of the blue veil contrasts with the stillness of the sitter's obscured profile. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a future episode. Stay tuned as we continue our look at the fine arts museums of San Francisco. See you in the next video.